Coming up on Mountain News this morning, Senator Mitch McConnell introduced a new bill aiming to protect farmers from selling land to developers. And postal workers across multiple states are planning protests to proposed federal reforms they fear will lead to privatization.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News This Morning.
Good morning, Mountain family. My name is Amelia Lee here with you on this Friday, March 21st, and the time is now 6:28, just about 2 minutes away from 6:30 this morning, which means it is time to check on in with meteorologist Megan Dusmall. And Megan, we have been talking about how it is finally spring. I feel like I never thought spring would come this year. I really did not.
Yeah, I was holding off for hope. I mean, I just kept on feeling it was getting pushed back and back, and then we had that long stretch of 70s, and I finally thought it was here. And now we got the colder weather of yesterday and today. So as you're heading out the door, make sure you're prepared for that because we're talking 30s. Here's a look at those current temperatures. 30 degrees for Jackson and Wise and Clintwood, seeing 28 still for London and for Logan. Now the good news is we will be warming up a little bit into seasonal temperatures. Normally this time of year we sit at 60 degrees. And we'll be in the mid to upper 50s with some cities hitting 60 degrees, right? 60 for Harlan, Jackson, Irvin, 62 for Manchester and Williamsburg. And as we're going through the next couple hours, we'll be seeing those clouds clearing out. We'll be looking at a mostly sunny day. Here's a look at the next 12 hours. We'll get to that high temperature around that 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock mark with those clouds rolling in as we're heading into the afternoon and evening hours. Amelia?
Thank you, Megan. Well, Kentucky's Supreme Court reversed a manslaughter conviction yesterday morning. Troy Dunkelberger was sentenced to 20 years in prison in 2023. KSP says he shot and killed Jerome Slayback during a 2020 camping trip. Dunkelberger said he acted in self-defense, but the court originally ruled that Dunkelberger couldn't use that defense since he started the argument that led to the shooting. On Thursday, the Supreme Court overturned that decision. They said Dunkelberger's actions weren't threatening enough to make him the initial aggressor. Dunkelberger could be tried again. U.S. Senator Mitch McConnell joined Kentucky agriculture leaders for a news conference at the University of Kentucky to discuss a bill that he says will protect American farmlands. Jessica Umbro tells us what the bill aims to do, as well as Senator McConnell's perspective on recent Trump administration policies.
Earlier this month, U.S. Senator Mitch McConnell introduced the Protecting American Farmlands Act. It's a bill that he says will answer a key question.
What can you do to encourage farm families to keep the farm?
The bill would make farmers exempt from the capital gains tax if they sell their land to other farmers who will keep it in agricultural production for at least 10 years. Senator McConnell says it would keep farmlands in the hands of farmers rather than developers.
And I think we begin to fight back against the loss of farms, which I really hate.
In addition to asking Senator Mitch McConnell about the Protecting American Farmlands Act, I was also able to ask him about a few of President Donald Trump's policies where the senator has expressed differing viewpoints. On tariffs, Senator McConnell expressed concerns about the potential for raised prices in two of Kentucky's key industries, bourbon and agriculture.
All I can say is I hope it works, but I don't think at this stage it's good for Kentucky.
But says it's ultimately up to President Trump.
The president does have a lot of latitude, so there's no particular legislative act that we could take to stop it.
On President Trump's movement towards dismantling the U.S. Department of Education,
the way to look at all of these reorganization efforts by the administration is what's legal and what isn't. And they'll be defined in the courts.
And when asked if he thought it was a good idea or not, the senator did not say an explicit yes or no.
I think it's a good idea to reduce government spending.
In Lexington, Jessica Umbro, WKYT.
Yesterday, Kentucky Democratic Party Chair Coleman Elridge said lawmakers should fight Trump's order to dismantle the Department of Education. He said in a statement that money from the Department of Education helps both students and teachers across the state. He then called Trump's plan, quote, unconstitutional, irresponsible, and shameful. Yesterday, postal workers across the Commonwealth gathered in Frankfort, voicing concern about an issue they say hits close to home. USPS workers say they want support from their elected officials and fellow citizens to prevent what they call damage to the country's mail service. The Postal Service announced last week they will work with the Department of Government Efficiency on reform. Those marching in Frankfort fear privatization of mail service will only flame customer concerns.
It's going to be catered to the big businesses and the billionaires. But the post office was designed for every individual. It's in our Constitution, and it's supposed to be everybody gets mail service created and treated equally. Whether you're a small business, a big business, whether you're rich, whether you're poor, whether you're in the city or out in the country.
Now there are plans to cut about 10,000 workers in the next 30 days by offering a voluntary early retirement program, according to a letter sent to Congress. There's also a planned protest for this Sunday in Bowling Green by United States postal workers. It's part of a series of more than 280 protests across America. One of the biggest concerns is the effect on rural communities, where residents may be forced to travel long distances to receive their mail.
There's over 160 million delivery points in the United States, and 51 million of those are rural, and their delivery could be restricted to having to come into town 20, 30 miles away. It could disrupt a lot of services.
Postal unions have fought off threats to the service before, but workers say this is the most serious challenge yet. Larkin believes public support is crucial in stopping these changes before they take effect. Governor Andy Beshear vetoed a bill dealing with diversity, equity, and inclusion. House Bill 4 seeks to ban DEI initiatives at public colleges and universities. On social media, the governor said, quote, "We've worked hard to make our Commonwealth a welcoming place. House Bill 4 takes away from that. The Republican supermajority will likely override the governor's veto." After years of delays, TSA will begin enforcing Real ID on May 7th. To get ready, Louisville's airport is alerting passengers about the importance of arriving early. Starting May 7th, you'll need a Real ID or a passport to board a commercial flight. If you don't get one in time, you will still be able to fly, but TSA says there will be an extra verification process that will slow you down in the security line. Officials say they are always busiest in the mornings, and air travel will pick up this summer too, so they encourage you to plan ahead.
So if you do have a morning flight, especially once the Real ID date goes into effect, I would encourage travelers to be mindful of that, especially if they don't have a Real ID, and even if they do have a Real ID, because there could be folks traveling who may not and have to get pulled away.
You can learn more about getting a Real ID at drive.ky.gov. But as we've previously reported, as we get closer to that May 7th deadline, appointments have become harder to come by, especially in larger cities. During a special called meeting in London yesterday, the City Council gave some clarity on an executive order from Mayor Randall Weddle. That order would create an executive security team for Weddle, his family, and specific city government members. While most discussion of the order was postponed to a regularly scheduled council meeting, one council member gave a statement on it.
And I do want to make a statement on this in regard to the executive security team. I think there's some misconception that the city or the city council is receiving this type of protection, and that is false. That is the farthest from the truth, probably.
Neither Mayor Weddle or Assistant Police Chief Bobby Day were at yesterday's meeting. The next regularly scheduled London City Council meeting is set for next month. A mountain organization spent the day giving back to flood survivors with a partnership in Prestonsburg. Roscoe's Daughter Inc. hosted a disaster assistance event at the Jenny Wiley State Resort Park, working with WellCare to cater a lunch and provide needed items and resources to flood survivors at the park. Kate Clemens says her mission has been connecting with survivors from all around the region for more than 1 month, hoping to assess needs and walk alongside her neighbors.
We began receiving calls, pleas really, begging for help, people stranded in their cars, they didn't know where to go. So we've been assisting with shelter options in all these counties from the very start, but today is the first day that we're able to be on the ground and do intake.
Clemens says a lot of the ongoing work has focused on immediate needs, but she wants to help her people long term. So she's been collecting data to keep in touch.
We've seen those clouds slowly move out of our region, and by the time they're gone, we're going to be looking at nice and clear skies for most of the day, seeing some clouds roll in as we're heading into the afternoon and evening hours. But let's talk those temperatures, because for the most part, we're looking at 30 degrees, seeing 28 for Somerset and London, 26 as you're traveling towards Irvine, and 28 again as you're traveling towards Logan. So let's talk about this afternoon, because we will be warming up just a little bit as we're heading into those later hours, mainly looking in the upper 50s, seeing some 60s popping out, and some low to mid 50s are also still in the forecast. Hazards forecast is at 56 degrees, 53 for Wise, and we're looking at 57 for Jonesville, Clintwood, and Logan. Here's what you need to know as you're heading off to the bus stop this morning. Temperatures will be in the low 30s with clear skies. By the time you're heading home, you can expect the mid 50s with mostly sunny skies. Amelia.
Thank you, Megan. Well, from this point on, it's win or go home. And the Wildcats don't want their season to end until it reaches San Antonio. Many fans of UK's biggest rivals poured into Lexington. The first round of the men's NCAA tournament tipped off yesterday. Louisville lost their game to Creighton yesterday, and Tennessee won their game against Wofford. And as March Madness gets underway, Lexington is feeling all the excitement over UK's women's basketball. They're hosting their opening round game tomorrow at Memorial Coliseum against 13th seeded Liberty. Coach Brooks says hosting an NCAA tournament game is a big perk fans should take advantage of this year.
There's a lot of things going on in Lexington this weekend, but I don't think anything's as exciting as being in here in historic Memorial, cheering on your Wildcats.
Today's game will tip off at noon. If you're not planning on going, you can catch the game on ESPN.